Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this edition of The Coaches Are In. I'm Michael Piperno, and I'm a leadership communication and executive coach. And in each episode of this series, I invite a fellow coach to answer your questions about a specific leadership-related topic. Today, I'm so happy that my friend and fellow coach, Tony Martignetti, agreed to join me for a discussion about stepping outside of your comfort zone. Thanks for joining me today, Tony.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here. We're going to have a lot of fun. I'm always thrilled to have a conversation with you.
Awesome. I feel the same way, my friend. Thanks again. So, listen, you and I talk a lot about how leadership comes with many uncomfortable moments. It's a fact. That's just part of leadership. That's part of the journey. And when you and I both speak with clients, we often explore stepping up to and walking through those difficult moments or things that are outside of your comfort zone, right?
Absolutely. Discomfort leads to growth. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It does. It does. And in leadership, there are a lot of those uncomfortable moments, but they don't have to be something, in my opinion, to fear. Because if you're fearing and you're dreading, you're probably making it worse for yourself than things actually are. So that's why we wanted to talk about this today. And we've got some good questions from our promotions on LinkedIn. We asked folks to submit their questions on the topic, and we got some really good ones. So I'd like to start, if you don't mind, I'll ask you one of the questions that came from LinkedIn. Okay.
Awesome. Let's have it.
All right. So this one's a good one. It comes from Mark F. And the question is, what strategies can I use to stretch my boundaries without feeling overwhelmed?
Yeah, I love this question. Let me start with just saying, you can start with is just saying, okay, what is it that I'm risking by getting out of my boundaries? One of the things that we often are fearful of is who I become or what will happen if I get out there and I don't know what will happen. If they're fearful of this sense of being, putting things at risk. The reality is that's a lot of fear that, it's unfounded. There's a lot of things that we attach ourselves to in that comfort zone that we really have to let go of and say, hey, what's the worst that could happen, really? Unless you're in a field of work that actually has a lot of potential threats of death, and hopefully that's not the case. The reality is there really isn't anything you can't recover from.
That's so true. And I also talk about a lot with clients that are struggling with that as well, is also think about what the cost of inaction actually is. Sometimes that can be a
100%.
motivator for giving yourself that push when it's feeling like it's going to be too risky or too dangerous, or you're not quite sure and you're a
Yeah.
little afraid, but you really know you need to. It's that
Yeah.
cost of inaction can be a motivator as well, plus the potential benefit of having whatever this is, this difficult conversation that you need to have, or taking this specific risk with developing someone on your team, or whatever it can be. Very often the potential upside is pretty great,
Yeah.
very often.
Yeah, I think it's so great you say that. And one of the things I'll just add to put a cherry on top is that I came from finance background. And my finance background, we always talk about measured risks. And what is the risk that we're willing to take that's not going to put the company at in a place where it's at detriment. And so the idea is you measure the risks that you're willing to take, and then you're saying, well, this is something that if it all fails, it's okay. I'm like, I can live with that. And so you got to figure out, what am I willing to risk?
Yeah. That's funny. I know you and I had a recent conversation about taking risks and everything as well. And I shared with you that one of the ways I like to live my life is I'm not I'm not like a total risk taker where I'm always taking every single risk, but I do take big risks sometimes. And it's because I know that I can fix it if it's a mistake. I have such confidence because I've done it, taken risks and have it not work out, that I need to clean it up and fix it. So if it's not hurting anybody else and it's going to get me or my business or whoever I'm working with to the next level, very often that's a motivator for me as well. So, hey,
So
you have a
maybe
question from someone?
I do. I'm going to pull up a question from who do we have here? Let's see. Okay, I've got one from John T. John says, how can I overcome the fear of failure when taking risks? So it's kind of a similar question, but it's
Yeah.
taking this to the next step.
Yeah, and let's look at this, Tony. We're hearing overwhelmed, we're hearing fear. So, and I'm not surprised because it is stepping out of your comfort zone requires overcoming that fear. And I think there's probably in my opinion, and it kind of goes back to something we already talked about. You have to find that motivating factor for yourself that's going to help you overcome the fear. Also, talking it out is a wonderful tool for really figuring out what's bothering me here about it, what's holding me back, what's making me not do something I know we should do. Is it really this? Is it just nervousness about it? Is it have you not thought about, like you said earlier, what's the worst that could happen, what's the best the good that can happen? And a lot of times I see fear showing up in these instances with leaders who, especially when they have to have difficult conversations with people or board members or whoever it is, the fear really comes up because that's not, well, most people don't like to have difficult conversations. So, but remembering and reframing can often help that. If I have this difficult conversation now rather than later, the benefit is, number one, I'm helping the person by being honest and transparent with them. I'm trying to have, usually if you're trying to have a difficult conversation with someone you lead, it's because you care about them and their development and their success. So when you reframe like that, it can often help you feel the good in it and the positive in it, even though we all know the moment may be tough.
I love how you say that. It's like the sense of like, to overcome the fear, you have to kind of get to know it better. You have to be able to become friends with the fear in the sense that you know why it's there. It's an expression of an emotion. And this is a great way for me to maybe share my 3 C's, connection, compassion, and curiosity, is that, you want to come in connection with yourself of like, why am I feeling this? What is it that why me? Why am I having this emotion? And then also being curious about it, asking those questions, getting deeper into it. What could this be telling me about this next step? Is this something that is maybe the next step in my path? And that's why it's asking me to lean into this fear. And maybe the curiosity is also about talking to other people and asking them like, hey, how have you navigated this? What advice do you have? Don't go it alone. And then compassion is coming back to being okay with the fact that these emotions are happening and embracing them.
Yeah, I love that. I always love your 3 C's, and the one that always rings for me is that curiosity piece, because it's a lot of people throw that around as a buzzword these days, and it's not. It's so important, and it's so important to flex that skill, especially in leadership today, where it's not thank goodness command and control anymore. It's leading and inspiring and relationship building and all of that, and curiosity plays such a big role. And it's not today's topic, but I love to touch on it because you made me think of it. Is when I come across clients in my public speaking and presentation coaching training, a lot of times nervousness and fear is part of that. For many people, fear is part of public speaking, and most people don't do the work to get to the root of why. They're not curious with themselves on what's really causing this nervousness, especially if it's more than you want to be experiencing, if it's paralyzing you. And just a little bit of curiosity when I go there with them often uncovers the real why behind the nervousness. Could have been a bad past experience. Could just be that they don't have enough. They don't have enough preparation time baked in. I mean, there's often a reason for that. Anyway, I'm going down a little bit of a rabbit hole. I'm going to move on to another question here, okay, for you. All right. So we have Agnes P. asked, what role does vulnerability play in leadership growth, and how can I practice it authentically? Two of my favorite words, vulnerability and authenticity, in that one. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, I think when you embrace that vulnerability of saying like, I know who I am, I get to know the truth of how I'm showing up, and I'm okay with knowing that I don't have all the answers. I don't know what is in the next part of who I am or where I'm headed. And you don't have all the answers. There's a sense of letting go of the tension, and letting other people support you through any change you're going through. When we have to have that bold, or that like our ego is kind of leading the charge, and we feel like we have to be the confident, strong one to move into that next chapter of our lives or into our next leadership initiative. The reality is we can say, if we're vulnerable and show our authentic selves, what happens is we can say, hey, I'm not 100% sure where we're headed here, or I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I can tell you right now that I need your support. I need your help to think about what happens next, because these things are uncertain, they're unknown, but we go together and we can go there stronger.
I love that, Tony. I wish I had you to talk to 15 years ago when I was leading my agency team, because that was one of the hardest lessons for me to learn, is it's okay to not know and to be honest about it, and to ask for the help from these brilliant and beautiful people that you hired who may know more than you about it. And once I got over that and got that out of my way, boy, was it much easier on myself. I was much easier on myself in leading, because I wasn't making it so I don't want to use the word that I wasn't making it so serious, but I was putting too much pressure on myself to get it right every single time. And that's just not life. It's just not life for any leader.
Yeah, and I think that also makes us stronger along the way too. Is like, we start to build strength from that, like by realizing that we have a lot to learn and we're open to learning. Then what happens is that allows us to lean into growth and to become stronger through it. If we come in from this perspective of we know it all, how are you going to learn anything?
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, Tony, we got through some good questions. I hope that the coaching that we just gave helps those folks that submitted those questions. And thank you, everybody who did. We couldn't get through all the questions we got because I don't want these to be an hour long. I want them to be easy for our audience to absorb. So hope you got some good tips today. If you enjoyed this and want to learn more about either me or Tony, I'll ask actually Tony, why don't you tell folks about how they can get in touch with you or learn more about you, and then I'll go.
Absolutely. So first of all, this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for having me. And the best place to find me is at my website at ipurposepartners.com and at LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active.
You are active. A lot of great content there too. And Tony's being a little bit, I don't know if you're being bashful or everything, but he's got a really great book too. So check out his website, check out his LinkedIn so that you can check out, what's the name of the book for everybody's knowledge?
My latest book is called Campfire Lessons for Leaders, How Uncovering Your Past Can Propel You Forward.
Yep, and he's also got a great podcast. So, little plug for you there. You can learn more about me, everyone, at my websites. There's two of them. There's wearecomvia, COMVIA.com, and then my name, michaelpiperno.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. Please follow me there. And if you want to get updates for when we pose new questions and publish episodes of The Coaches Are In, make sure you subscribe to my newsletter. That's at wearecomvia.com/subscribe. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.